So the longer term game goes like this. Accept whatever is happening. Whatever is happening, just accept it. This is happening now, I accept it. I will not fight with what's happening. Well, let me take a step back. Okay. So first and foremost, it can be really helpful just to do a reality check and just ask yourself, is there a real threat right now that's clear and obvious? Now there's not, because if there was, your body would have already taken over. But consciously, you just want to do that little reality check. Okay, is there a real threat right now that's clear and present? Now, I'm not talking about, is there some threat that I cannot see or recognize? Is there actually a threat that's clear and present that I can actually recognize right now? Like, is there somebody with a gun to my head? Is there somebody lunging at me with a knife? Am I falling from a 20-story building? Am I in the middle of the street and a car is coming at me? Am I being chased by the predator? So you just want to do a reality check and find out, is there actually a real threat that is clear and present? If so, then do something. But like I said, it's not going to be the case, because if there really was, your body would have already taken over. But it's helpful just to do that, just for your own self, just to do that little reality check, just for your conscious mind, just to acknowledge, okay, guess what? There is no actual threat right now. I am feeling as though there's a real threat, right? I'm definitely feeling like there's a real threat, but there is actually no real threat. Now, my brain may be telling me that there must be a threat, right? This is what happens, is because you're feeling the emotion, and then your brain says, well, if I'm feeling this emotion, it must be because there's a threat. Why would I feel this emotion if there's no threat? Well, I'm explaining to you why you feel the emotion. Because you made an association unconsciously. So you're not going to necessarily remember making the association. I mean, I guess you could have made it consciously, but for most of us, it's primarily unconscious. But that's why you experience the emotion. So the mistake is thinking that you're feeling the emotion because there's a threat. It's not true. You're feeling the emotion because your nervous system associated something as a threat or as a potential threat. It does not mean there is a threat. It just means that your nervous system made an association. But it's up to you then to do a reality check, because if you don't, and I know this very well from experience, so that's why I'm telling you this. If you do not do the reality check, then what happens is things will get worse over time. Because you will keep making more associations. If you do not deal with this, you'll keep making more and more associations. So just check it out in your own life. And is what I'm telling you making sense in terms of your own life? Can you see how this is played out? Where if you assume that your emotion is proof that there's a threat, if you accept that that is true, over time, over many years, you form more associations. Because at first, maybe you form the association, you say, when I have, when my bank account shows that I have less than $100, that means I'm going to die. And so for a while, that you're going with that, not necessarily consciously, but unconsciously. But over time, if you don't deal with that, then you're going to eventually, you're going to be like, okay, well, it's not just, and your brain will do it in its own unique way, but it could be like, okay, it's not just when my bank account has less than $100. It's when anytime that I pick up my phone on a Thursday. You're like, well, that's crazy. Well, yeah, but your brain figured out that there was one time when you picked up your phone on a Thursday and you opened up your banking app and you saw that you had overdrawn your account by $50, and you freaked out. So now your brain's like, if you touch your phone on a Thursday, you're going to have IBS. And your brain can get really, really creative, right? So it's like, be like, okay, well, my spouse, I found out my spouse was cheating on me on, in the fall, and we were on vacation, and to see the leaves changing. Guess what? Leaves changing is now a threat. Not a real threat, but according to your brain. So over time, these things they can go even more and more and more and more. So understand that simply having the emotion does not mean that there's a threat. Having the emotion means that your brain made an association with something that's being triggered. And if you would like to have a different experience, it's up to you to play the long game and question this, right? So number one, ask yourself, is there actually any real threat right now that I can clearly see? If not, then I'm going to choose to play the long game, right? So even though my brain is telling me there must be a threat, there must be, find it, I'm going to just acknowledge that there is no real threat. So I'm playing the long game. I am not going to fight with what's happening. Second thing, become aware of your breathing, because your breathing is intimately connected with everything. So your breathing is intimately connected with your thinking, with your imagination, with everything. So become aware of your breathing. Now remember, you might not feel good. So this is not about forcing yourself to calm down. This is not about doing box breathing because you saw some YouTube video that says, the Navy SEALs do box breathing, and that it's not that, okay? It's fine, time and place for all things, but that's not what I'm proposing. So it's not about trying to make yourself feel different than how you feel right now, because remember, your brain made an association that was triggered, that caused your body to be flooded with a bunch of hormones. That's why you're feeling what you're feeling right now. So what I'm proposing is the long game. It's not the short game. It's not about trying to instantly change how you're feeling. It's about accepting what you're feeling and just seeing it for what it is. Okay, so there's no real threat right now. Just do the reality check. And then I'm going to play the long game, become aware of your breathing, and just notice that as you're aware of your breathing, you can just start to notice all the things that all the resistance, all the tension, all the stuff all the fighting and struggle that you're doing within yourself. Just by being aware of the breathing, you can allow yourself to let go of that stuff. Are you going to feel better? Maybe not. You might. I can't deny that it's a possibility, but you might not. So just remember, it's a long game. You are not concerned with how you're feeling right now. You might feel bad right now. Just be aware of your breathing and allow yourself to just continue to be aware of your breathing. And as you do that, you'll start to notice all the things that you're doing within yourself that you naturally will start to let go of. As a result, you might start to feel better, but again, you might not. And I know this can be a little bit crazy making because there's such a strong impulse to try and feel better right now. But if you can just accept how you're feeling and give up on this short-term game for right now, instead of insisting, I have to feel better right now, I have to feel better right now, realize that the insistence, I have to feel better right now, creates more tension, which reinforces this vicious cycle, which keeps all of those associations going, adds more associations into the mix. So play the long game and just accept, I'm feeling whatever I'm feeling. It's okay. There's no real threat. Just be aware of your breathing. as you're aware of your breathing, you will notice that you're doing all kinds of things that you can start to let go of. In addition to this, I can propose a few things. So if you can recognize that the emotion that you're experiencing is fear, then understand that fear is an away from strategy. Okay, so fear is about getting away from something. It's about avoiding. So there's a perception of threat, and fear is I have to avoid the threat because I can't overcome it. So only after you've done the first steps, there will come a point when, if you can recognize that what it is fear, like if you would call what you're experiencing anxiety, that's fear, clearly. Okay. So in that case, ask yourself this question: what do I want instead? Because otherwise, just notice your brain is going to what you don't want, right? Your brain's like, I don't want to be, I don't want to be in this place. I don't want to be seen by these people. I don't want to feel uncomfortable. I don't want this. I don't want that. I don't want whatever it is. Your brain's just on overdrive. I don't want, 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 I don't want. And as long as you keep doing that, it stays stuck, because it just reinforces that there's something that you need to avoid. So ask yourself, what do I want instead? Then ask yourself, what is something that I could do to begin to move in that direction of what I want? That can be really powerful for fear, is just start to shift your focus away from what you don't want to what you do want. And then just ask yourself, what are some things that I could actually start to do now to move in the direction of what I want? I do not recommend trying to force yourself to take those steps, but rather ask yourself, you just want to start to shift your focus in the direction of what you want instead. And then find out, what are some things that I could start to do to move in that direction? They could be very small, but without force, what are some things I could do? Even if they're very small, because you want to start to move towards something instead of away, because the away from strategy just keeps that cycle stuck.